Jeff Lynne, Roy Wood, and Bev Bevan were already a part of the commercially successful group The Move. So why disband that group and form the Electrolyte Orchestra? It's simple. It's a mere case of self-actualization. These musicians wanted something more out of the music. They wanted to carry on where the Beatles had left off. And I'm glad that they did. The Electrolyte Orchestra is my favorite group by far. And this album really wasn't a terrible debut album, considering just what they were trying to accomplish. Let's look at their first track, 105-8 Overture. This song was originally destined to be a B-side, which really would have downplayed how awesome this track is. Just the riff alone was amazing. I am so glad that Roy Wood was playing cello in the studio at the time when they were recording this, and they decided to put on these cello tracks. Boom, Elo was born right there. The best rendition of this song that I've heard to date is from the Wembley or Bust DVD set. Buy it, listen to it, love it, enjoy it, repeat it. It almost made me cry when I heard that. It was just amazing. For the concept, it was good. But as far as the song goes, I mean, the strings, mathematical. I remember Paul McCartney saying that he felt like ELO stole that from the Beatles. Very mathematical strings. Anyways, it's got very mathematical strings, similar to Eleanor Rigby, but it is no Eleanor Rigby. But if you compare it to perhaps folk tunes of generations past, very fitting.
Thank the Lord for the clothes that she wore.
This song is very reminiscent of idle race tunes. Jeff Lynne said that he felt very uncomfortable writing love songs, and this was the reason why he oftentimes wrote those wonky stories, as you'll see on the Idle Race and Birthday Party albums. Read the lyrics, well worth a read. Lovely lyrics. In the middle of the song, there's a little bit where you got these shrieking cellos. It's a little off-putting, kind of takes away from the song, but I feel like this isn't necessarily due to the composership of the music, but more to the cheapness of the instruments that they were using. I recall when Roy Wood was talking about the cello that he was using, he referred to it as a cheap Chinese cello. And so if you look at later albums, not just the production, but also the quality of the instruments improved. I feel like this one runs a little bit too long. Remember that this is a rock album, although at the same time this was during the prog era. But yeah, there's sections of the song that I really do adore. Some really catchy parts, but just runs a little too long, gets redundant fast. Although at the same time, I mean, this is to envision a war. Sit back, close your eyes, dim down the lights. Just imagine what Roy Wood wanted you to envelop. This song will eerily remind you of Classical Gas by Manson Williams, and Roy Wood doesn't deny the similarity of it. In fact, maybe he nicked a bit from that song. It's a good song. In my mind, it's far enough away from Classical Gas. Very nice song.
Hello, Mr. Radio. Your friendly station.
This was an unfinished tune by Jeff Lynne. And frankly, I feel like it is probably the second best song on this album. Too bad it wasn't finished. You know, Jeff Lynne re-recorded a bunch of his hits on Mr. Blue Sky, the very best of ELO. And I was really impressed with those songs. A lot more power behind them. I would love to see him re-record and perhaps even rewrite some of his earlier tracks so we can see the full majesty of what he was trying to do then, especially with a song like Mr. Radio. Would so love to hear a re-recording of that song with all of his new producing grit. Okay, so this is an eerie track, but think about the title. I mean, you know, what do you expect? Once again, these are guys trying to explore a new concept. Really, this album is groundbreaking. When I was a younger teenager, I really loved this song, but then years later, you know, I'm listening to this again, I'm thinking, how do I like this song? But then after listening to it a few times to do this album review, the song really grew on me again. So, it's an alright song. I mean, Queen of the hours, London darling, days of time, then she is there. I think that they weren't just coming up with, you know, adding strings to rock and roll. I think that in a lot of ways they're coming up with their own sub-folk genre with some of these songs. Yeah. This song is perhaps even spiritual. I think it's one of the best songs that Roy Wood has written. It's soothing. It's so graceful. In some ways, it's almost not fitting on this album with some of the obscure tracks that are there. It's a very nice tune. Very nice end to the album. How does this album fit in the repertoire of ELO? I would say that out of all of its albums, it would probably rank last. Although, it did spawn the brilliant hit of 105 through Overture, which is brilliant in itself. You've got to take the album for what it is, right? It was a startup. This album is probably more for people who are diehard ELO fans like myself. If you're going to listen to this album, don't just listen to it once and throw it aside. You got to listen to it a few times. Songs grow on you. That's a rule of thumb with any album, okay? You got to give every album 3 or 4 listens, especially when you consider like some of the Paul McCartney albums. I mean, like let's say Cook of the House. That song, when you first hear it, it's like, oh man, that's rubbish. But then after a few times, it's like, Cook of the House, Cook of the House. But yeah, I really like this album. Even just the album cover itself, done by Hypnosis. Before you start playing the album, it gives you a sense of what the album's about. A sense of eeriness, a sense of, I guess, classicalness. Question of why is there a light bulb in the middle of this mansion? Kind of peculiar. So yeah, that's my take on Electrolyte Orchestra's No Answer.